Hey, good morning. PolSilver blade. It's had 20 uses. The razor I'm going to use is one that I've used with some high use blades, and so it must just have some geometry that agrees with those blades in my face, even when in such high use. This is a Testina Gentile head from Fatip. This is the special edition black and gold, but it's the same geometry as any of the closed comb heads from Fatip. The soap we're going to use is Stirling R4L, Responders for Life. It was made for the South Florida wet shavers, and it was a limited run. If you like this scent and weren't able to get any, you can look on the used market, but you can also order Fine Accoutrements Fresh Vetiver, which is the same scent, and both of them are inspired from Tom Ford's Gray Vetiver scent, which I must enjoy because I enjoy these two soaps really well. It's an easygoing scent, kind of feels kind of classic and understated, and a nice vetiver blend. Vetiver's not super strong in it. It's got some other cologne fresh type things coming into it. And so obviously I think that's probably why it's a big hit with Tom Ford, and why it was good enough for a couple of makers to want to make a soap with that as a model. The B10 brush is from Stirling. It's a boar brush, and this one's been soaking for several hours inadvertently, and I'm going to put it back in the water. Not that it needs the water, but when I start my shaving, I shake out the water, and so that leaves a certain amount in the brush. And so I need to start with that same amount. So that's why we'll do that. All right, I'm going to put a little water on my face. I think a little bit more than 24 hours of growth since my last shave. Now, the reason I'm going back to this Stirling is, other than the obvious ones that I like it, is that this soap, this very puck, is the one that I used for 15 shaves. Here's the PolSilver blade, just to show that. It doesn't actually have the words PolSilver on it. I used this soap for 15 shaves because I wanted to see how much Stirling soap I used up per shave, and so I did 15, and then I did the math. I did the division, and it looked like about 0.4 grams per shave, which compared to some other guys out there who've charted their usage is quite low. And it means that a puck of Stirling is going to last me over a year with daily use. Now, with the Fatips, you do have to check blade alignment. See? Perfect. I just drop the blade in, carefully put things on, just let them fall, and a lot of times that is how it works. And so we'll take, since this has lost a gram of water, I think I might increase the load time from my, I think a usual 12 seconds or something like that was it back in the day. I'll go ahead and do 20 seconds of loading. So here is the reason I'm using this soap today, is to share with you that before the shave, I weighed it at 217 grams. It started out at 223 grams. So we just had that loss, and the last shave I did was 219 grams, and so we have seen approximately 2 grams of water evaporate from the soap over a few weeks that I let it sit, and so that's what I was thinking. I was looking at the surface of a soap, and I thought, how many grams can that hide? How many grams are going to evaporate of water from that surface? Surely it's not going to be something like 4. And so that means that I think my ratio is probably not going to be altered too much. If a lot of water evaporated, then that could change drastically in my per shave figure, but I don't really think that it's going to in a significant way at all. So that's good to know. And And so now that sets the, that takes care of that unknown, because I didn't know how much water was going to evaporate. All right, let us load up. This shave is not going to be one that is too complicated and talky. At least I'm not going to use up non-lathering time. I had to wait till my little clock rolled around to a round amount of seconds, so it would be easier to count. If you don't want to have a clock in your bathroom with a second hand, one way to go is just count swirls. You could just go by feeling and look. If you use the same soap over and over, I'm sure you could definitely get into the you could definitely get competent in guessing how it should look. You use a bunch of different soaps, that may be more difficult. Roger Quintero Lather Bowl, he's the designer, and he put the plans up there on for free on thingiverse.com. I've got a link in the description of my video if you have access or own a 3D printer. You can also use websites like MakeXYZ to find someone else with a 3D printer and pay them to print it for you. I've heard good things from that site. Turns out that's a brokerage type site where they want to they help to set you up with somebody who does printing, and then we'll mail it to you. If you find somebody local, you could save a lot of money. Also, I've heard that some public libraries, and maybe some of the larger cities, maybe some of the richer cities, might actually have a 3D printer on hand that you can make use of. As usual, Stirling mixes up kind of thick at first, pasty. Two grams of water. Stirling usually handles that really well, if I recall. Forgot to look at the formula. That was my successful last use. It's a great scent. Definitely enjoyed it the 15 days I was using it. After I used it for 15 shaves, it sure was tough to put it down and look at it for a few days, knowing that I needed to wait a couple of weeks to make sure that water evaporated, because I started from an evaporated puck state. The puck hadn't been used in months, and so the water that it retained after that first shave would discount my exact weights if I didn't wait and let the water from the last shave evaporate in a similar fashion. A dry puck in the beginning, minus the soap usage, but water deposit of as many shaves is not going to be accurate. Let's go ahead and put in just a little bit more, and then I'm going to go for it, since today's going to be a faster shave. This brush is nice and soft. It did not need any kind of lengthy soak, at least in terms of the bloom. It opens up nicely. The tips are soft. Not a whole lot of them are split, and so with that long soak, if it helps some of those tips to split and get even softer, that would be cool. I meant to just put it in for like a 15-minute soak. Then I went to sleep. Oh yeah, see that I added that half a teaspoon right there, and the lather just kind of had a unnatural increase in quantity. Sometimes you'll see that with some soaps. So with that lather increase, I need to keep adding so that I thin it down. I keep it nice and hydrated. Don't want it to be so creamy that it stays thick on my skin. It needs to bond with my skin and deliver that protective layer of slickness. That's so important to get a good shave. At least it is for me. We're just going to roll with this. Pretty much 4 teaspoons put in the lather. All right, water on my face. Yeah, it's a good scent. So this first pass of lather needs to step onto your face here, and it needs to hang out for a little bit. Needs, if you can afford it, you'll be rewarded with, I believe, a closer shave, while the lather kind of works itself into your hairs. The pre-shave of the water has helped to moisten them, and this keeps that going. And then this is just a cleaning operation here, clearing away any flaky skin, maybe washing away any dirt, hopefully getting some lather in and around some hair follicles to maybe make them stand up a little bit. Also cleansing that dirt out to help it to not affect the blade of the razor. But if you only use a blade every, for 2 or 3 shaves, then you don't have to, that's not really relevant for you. So this is the Piccolo handle. It's got stripes there. It's a solid metal. It's brass, and it's been coated and chromed and all that stuff. The other handle is a thicker handle, but it's hollow and a little lighter than this one, I think. Now, this is a mild razor. But I've used it to take down long lengths of hair. All right, next pass. All right. We had a rinse there, not a full rinse, just kind of a partial. Not a complete rinse, I guess I should say. There we go. You don't really need to keep doing that cleaning operation. And this right here is super smooth. It's not so smooth that you don't feel the blade, but it's almost that smooth. Well, so far this PolSilver seems to be a good match. It's really funny, I really enjoyed this razor, and I looked at the different blades that I had used with it, and I hadn't actually tried too many. There were several shaves in my log with the Nasset when I was marathoning it. It did very well in that use. I think I was using the open comb head though. All right, rinse. All right. Fill the, kind of shove the brush down in there to shove the lather inside the bristles. There we go. Plenty of lather to do the job today. The brush feels really good on my face. It's so crazy to think that it's going to get softer. And I do, for the third pass, a cross grain shave again on my face. Very few places on my face I do against the grain. And if you are someone who can go against the grain, like most guys, I think that's awesome. I do bring in, during my rinses, a little bit of warm water just to bring the temperature up to lukewarm, because we're in the winter right now and the water is very cold. It can actually kind of desensitize my skin. And since I'm kind of reporting on the condition and the feel of the brushes, oh man, that really looks like I am getting a nice shave right there. I hope it bears out as we rinse off and dry off, because sometimes you'll see more length after that happens. All right, I think we're doing final rinse. This is a very gentle razor, very smooth, very mild. Still has a nice cutting efficiency. I've just been recently testing the Feather ASD2, which is another mild razor, very mild. But to me, for my beard, my skin type, and all those factors, and I tried it about a dozen blades in it, but I very rarely, almost never got a shave this close. It's just the geometry of the head. I even tried this very PolSilver with it. That might have been my most recent shave. No, it was two feather shaves ago. I tried the Feather most recently, but the PolSilver. And this is a 21 use now PolSilver. And I got a better shave than using much younger blades with the Feather. So it's pretty clear. And this is what I was suspecting, because I was remembering these kind of shaves with these other types of razors as I was thinking about whether or not to keep the Feather. It does deliver good shaves in certain situations, but this guy right here covers many more situations. Better blade use, more of the blades are acceptable with this razor, and it's not manufacturing quality. because the Feather is a stainless steel razor and manufactured probably to better standards than this Fatip. But the Fatip's general geometry is better for my face. And so this little $25 razor, actually since this one comes with two heads, this is a special edition, I think it's a $28 razor. But it works much better than a $120 razor because of just the geometry. That Feather was just made for people with maybe milder skin or just different skin than I have. And that's just the way it goes. And I love that because it means that these lower cost razors can often be the best one for people and give people amazing shaves when they don't have to break the bank. So very cool. So this is a lifetime razor. The plating may eventually wear off. I've heard reports of that, especially with this kind of metallic black plating. But and then there's gold plating here. The plating may wear off, but it's a brass razor to the core. And worst case, if it does wear off, it's just going to wear down to brass, and you'll still have a razor that you can use for multiple lifetimes. So this is a tremendous little smooth guy that I just enjoy, and it surprises me regularly how much cutting I get, how much a close shave, and how much stubble is removed with such comfort at the same time. And that's a tough combination. All right, well, how much lather did we have extra? We'll see if that 20 seconds of load time was right for kind of a dry tub. And yeah, pretty much. I could probably do 2 passes out of this, but we'll just say one. We'll do one definite for sure pass, comfortable pass. Stirling, this was a terrific lather. It wasn't all that luxurious during the rinses. It was just slick, you know? And so if you want to do that, you might want to run a little thicker. I think one time I forgot to get the water out of my goatee that first pass, and I think it kind of washed out the lather just a little bit. But I remembered to do that on the other 2 passes, and it was nicer. But so this was a performance lather, not necessarily a luxury lather. Be careful if you go for the creamy because it can get you too dry. All right, well, I'm going to clean up, and we'll see you. So this is this brush after a good slinging out of water and a toweling. And yeah, not a lot of the tips have split. As this dries, now that it's been soaked for a long time, hopefully we'll get a few more split tips. And also one thing that I noticed is the bristles are kind of keeping their shape. They're not, you know, flaring open too much this way. Now, as you can see, some are. And so that may be the way the brush is going to hit eventually. But it does really, even when super wet, spring back into shape. Some of those other Semogue boar brushes that I have, if you do this, you'll keep a little bit of much more of a curve to the bristles. And if you want them to dry more evenly, you kind of have to spread them out like that. But it's a beautiful brush. This is an inexpensive one. If you want a comfortable, inexpensive boar brush, then this B10 is the way to go. I did not like the 2 ridges that were here in this waist area. Waist is in the narrow part. And so I took my Dremel and worked them down. It's ugly, but it's comfy. Feels good in my hand. All right. We used almost 4 teaspoons of water. I think I'm glad I didn't put that last bit in just for time's sake. I didn't need it. All right. I've got a cologne that I'm going to wear today, and so I'm just going to splash a little bit of, oh man, that's a nice close shave. I'm going to splash a little bit of Soap Commander Integrity Balm on me. It's unscented, and this is the variation of the Integrity that has no menthol, because I am not a menthol fan. And this will give me nice protection on a winter day, but not get in the way of any kind of aftershave fragrance that you want to put on. Now, some people actually put on a balm, like an unscented balm like this, and a splash, you know, because that'll give you maybe a couple hours of scent, depending on what you've chosen. Or some people let this just be their only post-shave treatment and then spray on a cologne. But this guy works really well. All right, well, there we go. It's a good shave. I enjoyed it. I love the scent. That razor is terrific. I will mention with Fatip, sometimes there have been known to be manufacturing issues. But as long as you just take a look at your razor and inspect it, when you get it, buy it from somebody that has a return policy. I think I've heard of some plating issues, but those are pretty easily seen, you know. And I have personally experienced a couple that have an alignment issue. I guess it's with maybe the bolt that goes into the top cap is maybe 0.5 millimeter off from center. And so by the time everything's screwed together, the blade might have just a little bit of more of exposure on one side than the other. But to me, that's fine. I mean, someday I may search and find out a perfectly aligned one and then just enjoy it from there on. But to get just a little bit more of an aggressive shave, and then a really mild shave on one side and a slightly less mild shave on the other, to me doesn't really matter too much. But I wanted to be upfront with you there about the Fatips. I've had great success with mine so far, and I've owned several. The brush did superb, and so I'm happy all the way around today. And the PolSilver had a little bit of a rough feeling on one of my cheeks, but then after that, everything on that first pass only. After that, everything, and when I say a little bit of rough, I do mean a little bit. Let's just say it was not smooth, not a little rough. You know, words are important, right? But I had a great shave, terrific, and to be rewarded with this closeness, I mean, yeah. So this little $28 razor beats that $120 razor. That's the feather, and that's actually comparing this retail price to the used market price of the feather. I'm pretty sure it's more than 120 retail. So for my skin at least, this little guy beats Goliath in terms of expense, you know, but and in terms of ease of use, all the way across the board, the feel as well as the end result of the closeness that I get. So there we go. I hope there was something here that helped you out. You take care, and we'll see you next time. This is Sugar Daddy Shaves. Bye.